Hello there! So I made my first map 4 months after joining Osu, and through mods, I learned a few of the basics. Rhythm is best when a player clicks on important sounds, and spacing is best when there's a clear difference between timeline gaps. I still had to concentrate on these a lot while mapping though. It especially took a lot of thought for me to interpret a song and create rhythm accordingly. Stuff like flow and visuals were too esoteric and confusing for me to even consider while concentrating so much on rhythm. After around 20 mods on that map, I thought it was good enough, and I started asking beatmap nominators to rank it. And I kept asking, and nobody ever helped. I didn't know what was wrong with the map, and nobody capable would tell me. It's a situation I'm sure a lot of mappers have gone through. So yeah, that wasn't really going anywhere. Instead of trying to push my first map towards rank, I decided to map some other songs. Each map was better than the last, and eventually I actually managed to rank a map after 9 months. Even with an accomplishment like this though, I still didn't know much about mapping. It wasn't until my 4th ranked map that I actually started to concentrate on spacing emphasis. Up until this point, I'd been focusing on rhythm all the time, but by this map, I'd already mastered it. I'd practiced rhythm composition so much that I could do it without even thinking, and that meant I could shift my focus elsewhere, onto spacing emphasis. I tried to make this map more logical than my previous maps by understanding the intensity of individual sounds and spacing objects accordingly. After making more maps while focusing on spacing emphasis, I could do it without thinking as well, just like rhythm, meaning I could focus on other stuff like visuals. I had a basic visual style already, but it was messy and really unorganized. Since I could fully concentrate on it now though, I improved visuals more than ever before. Then, after making more maps focusing on solid visuals, it no longer took all of my concentration, and I can focus on movement. I stopped just throwing my mouse across the screen and calling it natural movement because my hand naturally landed there. My movement actually began to have logic, and I don't think that would have been possible while actually concentrating on the peculiarities of rhythm, spacing emphasis, visuals, and every other little thing I skipped over for the sake of making this short. So, how do you improve in Osu? Play more. Players develop skills over time by playing a huge variety of maps. Despite how convincing a full Amazon shopping cart may seem, there's no shortcuts to large-scale improvement in an activity like Osu. Mapping may not be a physical skill, but mappers improve the same way, by mapping more. This is why, despite understanding concepts, some mappers can't apply them. These mappers try to rush through the ranking process without fully understanding everything that's necessary. They can't organize all the concepts they've learned at the same time because they don't have enough experience with each individual element of mapping. It may seem like an easy thing to learn, but you're always going to be missing out on stuff, so going too quickly only causes problems. Okay, so that was a pretty long process to get to a point that's pretty obvious. Why does it matter? How about we go back to my first map? Why wouldn't a beatmap nominator rank it? Why was I, a salty and frustrated new mapper, blaming the system for my map not being ranked? My first map sucked because object placements didn't have any clear structure. The only way for it to be rankable would be by remapping while focusing on the elements of my map that were underdeveloped, like spacing emphasis, visuals, and movement. A beatmap nominator explaining each of these elements would be nice, but it wouldn't actually solve the problem. I wouldn't know how to handle each element because they're not possible to master overnight. I would need experience through making multiple other maps in order to remap this one effectively. That's just how any mod would affect a mapper with fundamental issues. In this sense, getting a mod is similar to, say, buying a tablet. A tablet might make it easier to play, but you're not going to instantly get better with it. You'd still need to practice a lot to improve, even if you have the tools necessary to best proceed. Still though, why don't modders explain the problems new mappers have anyway? Like, even if it doesn't directly help me, wouldn't it be better for a beatmap nominator to point me in the right direction? Well, aside from them being busy people, that comes down to how the Osu community handles criticism, and in turn, how modders have adapted to that. Basically, modders are all too nice. As a modder, it hurts to tell someone that their map isn't even close to acceptable, and that the only way to fix it is through experience. That takes time and therefore makes people lose motivation. This especially hurts late into the ranking process, such as when a map has already received a lot of mods, or if it's bubbled, or even if it's qualified. In the few cases where modders do actually criticize maps like these for structural issues, there's almost always a negative reaction. Mappers either refuse to accept that their maps aren't perfect, or genuinely disagree with the criticism because they don't have enough experience to see what about their map could actually be improved. It doesn't help that most aspects of mapping are extremely subjective and that only one opinion isn't enough to convince someone that there's a problem. Improving takes time, and modders can help, but attitudes in the mapping environment prevent that from happening. If mappers could be more open with the process of improvement, modders maybe wouldn't be so averse to criticizing maps on a fundamental level. Anyway, that's why my map couldn't get ranked. I needed to improve through experience, and competent modders would rather avoid drama by telling me so. The solution to this seems pretty straightforward, but it's a lot easier said than done, which is why so many mappers have gone through the same experience. Still though, I thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about. Thanks to these people for supporting this video, and I'll see you next week.